Dun dun dun. Welcome back to Dimension 3 Studios. This is Rob, your host. Today we're talking quadraphonic. What is quadraphonic? Where did it come from? And where did it go? Well, let's go all the way back to 1930s when we had monophonic recordings, which is exactly what you're hearing right now. And as a matter of fact, we've come full circle. We went monophonic, stereophonic, quadraphonic, back to monophonic in a Bluetooth speaker. It's really rather sad. But what happened was, in about 1950s, people like Les Paul and Mary Ford started playing with stereo recordings that were two different channels. And you may have one singer singing out of one speaker and the other singer singing out of the other speaker, and you may have had guitars in this speaker and bass in this speaker and drums coming out both speakers in a stereo form, and all of a sudden you now didn't have one speaker coming at you, you had a wall of sound coming at you, and it was fantastic. Matter of fact, all the records started saying stereophonic. The Beatles were stereophonic. A lot of bands that were originally monophonic were now coming out in stereophonic. And if we jump ahead in 1972, where we start getting into the Vietnam War and we start getting into government protests and protests of the war, well, those people, I believe they were called hippies, which were basically baby boomer degenerates. Can I say that? Well, anyway, they were high on LSD and they were high on magic mushrooms, and they were experimenting with mind-altering drugs. And what's better to go with mind-altering drugs than quadraphonic that immerses you? You're now not in front of the mix. You're in the middle of it. You're at that concert in your living room. Probably really high, but nonetheless, not necessarily. It could have been you were at the theater, at the opera. You were at a live concert. But the point was that in your own living room, you were literally in the middle of the mix. And it was a fantastic idea, and it was great. So what happened to it? Well, companies like CBS and Sony came out with their version of quadraphonic. It was called SQ. And other companies came out with their version of quadraphonic that might have been QS or CD4, or I think like 10 different formats of quadraphonic that required a decoder where the music, the album, whatever it was, had been encoded in a certain format, and you had to have this kind of receiver to decode it and listen to it in quadraphonic. Well, people were going out and spending a ridiculous amount of money to buy a quadraphonic system. For instance, this 52-year-old Marantz 4430 weighs about 50 pounds, was very expensive, and you didn't have to buy two speakers. Excuse me, you had to buy four. So it was very expensive, and you went out and you spent all this money for this new quadraphonic format to find out that within this quadraphonic format, there's a whole bunch of different formats. And what really happened was, let's say Mary went out to go buy a new quadraphonic stereo system, and she went to go buy a new quadraphonic album, and the album was in CD4, but the receiver that she bought was in SQ, and all of a sudden the two formats didn't combine, and she wasn't getting quadraphonic, and if she did, it was weird and sounded funny. And she thought, wow, I just spent all this money. What the hell? It was very confusing for consumers because you had to have a matched type of Quadraphonic to the type of receiver that you had for what album you were buying, or unless you had a Quadraphonic reel-to-reel, in which case you could just, if you had discrete 4-channel, you could plug in 4 in and listen 4 out, each recorded on their own channel, each exactly as it was recorded, no decoder needed. As you can see, it got a little confusing, and it died as fast as it came in. And years later, Dolby Atmos came out with 5-in-1 Dolby Pro Logic, which was fantastic, but it wasn't meant for music, it was meant for movies. And as a matter of fact, it still is today. If you listen to music on Dolby Pro Logic, it really sounds horrible. You might as well go back to the Bluetooth speaker, which is why I see that we did that. Because they killed the real format that music was supposed to be listened to in Quadraphonic. And what I have done in this studio that people have been asking me about is, what's this Quadraphonic thing you're telling me about your studio? Well, what I've done is I've taken new digital technology of today and I've commingled it with technology of the 70s, vintage technology, to produce a real quadraphonic image of my music. I didn't do this with the intent of selling it or the intent of, trying to bring quadraphonic back, although quadraphonic is actually coming back. There's a very big market for it. These receivers on the market today are ridiculously priced. They're very expensive, and people are reconditioning them back to new because you can't recreate sound as they do. And I can tell you for a fact, it took me quite a while to get the studio really dialed in where I was getting quadraphonic properly, able to mix quadraphonic properly, and monitor it properly. And it was a little frustrating, but I did get it. And the point of this vlog that I'm doing is to help anyone that is interested in quadraphonic to know what to buy, know how to set it up, especially if you're doing like I am as a recording engineer and I want to actually hear my music back in quadraphonic, as to how to go about doing that is what I meant to say. Anyway, and I've had some engineers, Brian Creveau specifically, had asked me about recording. He has a 4-channel reel-to-reel, very much like mine. Can he record in 4-channel? Absolutely, Brian, you can. The problem is that you have to have a quadraphonic receiver and 4 loudspeakers to monitor it. And that's where it can get a little bit expensive, especially considering you want good loudspeakers, not crappy ones. You want ones that are ohm rated for the receiver, and if you were to buy a Marantz or something like I did, most likely they're going to be 4 ohm speakers, not 8 ohm speakers, and those are somewhat difficult to find, not that you can't find them, but you're limited on what you can use. Excuse me. It is very daunting to put a quadraphonic system together. My friend Nevada, I'm sorry guys, the air is very dry out here. My friend Nevada was very, very blown away when he heard my quad system in my living room. And he said, I have never heard anything at all like that, not even close. And I decided I was going to help him get a quadraphonic system put together, and he found out it's difficult. It's not not that you can't do it, but you have to have patience, and you have to wait for the right deals to come along, and then there might be even some repairs of speakers because they're old. A lot of this stuff is 50 years old. But you can see the quality of these receivers. This is 52 years old, 53 years old, and it's still up and cranking. All the lights work, everything works. They built a much higher quality piece of equipment back in the day. And yes, it sounds better to me than new digital technology all day long. So the point of this video to help everyone that is interested in quadraphonic to be able to shoot me questions, send me comments, and if it's something you're interested in doing, by all means, I'll shoot you my email, and we can talk about it, or we can go on Facebook and we can talk about it on there also. Thanks for tuning in, and I'm glad that I could bring this very special edition with me to help you guys in your quadraphonic journey, all you quadraphonic people. Anyway, I was going to show you a little bit of the recording, although it'll be in monophonic, so it's kind of stupid to do. But I had created a bluesy kind of psychedelic-ish recording the other night, and I wanted to show you how the movement of the guitar happens, although it's kind of, again, stupid to do that because this is a monophonic recording. But the natural compression that happens when you take digital to tape, real tape, not a plug-in, it really kind of blew me away. I wasn't expecting that good of a recording. So I'm going to play just a little bit of it for you guys to hear the quality of it. And no, it's absolute bliss to be able to record in quadraphonic. I love it. It's taken my mixing to a whole new level, and it's really pushed my brain. It's been an absolute challenge to get it all hooked up, get the right wires to the right channels, the right inputs, the right outputs. I mean, I got a million wires in the studio. So, anyway, let me play a little bit of this for you. Okay, you get the idea. It's a trip to hear that guitar going from here to here to here to here, all around the room, and to hear the quality of the recording coming across on tape. To me, it's something I've missed for a very long time. Digital music seems to have taken away that very warm, punchy sound that I remember back from the days. Remember, I'm Gen X, so, you know, guys, I just call it the way I see it, and you can disagree with me. I'd love to hear your comments. If you guys think digital sounds better than analog, or you're just kind of wanting to check out this quadraphonic thing and you want to know what the difference is, shoot me some comments, give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate it. Of course, you all are welcome to subscribe. If you are not subscribed, we're going to be going through a lot more of conversations like this of time when I was young, and, you know, we've got pedal boards that were analog and pedal boards today that are digital, and things of that sort that we're going to be talking about and what the differences is between them. So anyway, thank you guys so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you found it educational and fun and somewhat, I don't know, different. Anyway, thank you so much again, guys. Have a great day. Peace.